I'm Lindsay, and welcome to the Intuitive Psychologist podcast. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist, and I've been in the mental health field for over 15 years. During my spiritual awakening, I've realized that psychology is really missing the mark. I believe that traditional therapy combined with spirituality can actually lead to long-term healing and growth. And I've actually had the luxury of seeing this happen within my own private practice, where I've tried to incorporate the two together. My intention for this podcast is to discuss my opinions about spirituality and therapy, and I like to do it in a fun way. My hope is that I'll inspire other people to explore different ways to improve their lives. But I'd also like to normalize what many people have been going through or are currently going through, so that you can know that you're not alone and that you're not crazy. And maybe along the way I can inspire a few therapists along the way to actually think outside the box and to offer their own version of intuitive healing. If this is interesting to you, then join me on this journey as we try to have fun and explore an informal way to bridge the gap between psychology and spirituality. Hello friends, we're back at it. So today I'm going to do, still on the topic of relationships, but I'm going to get personal today. I've been feeling very heavy the last, 24 hours or so, maybe a little bit longer. And I was really getting down on myself, especially this morning when I woke up and I'm like, really girl, you're not feeling any better? And then I was on Instagram just scrolling through, and I'd been following Lori Ladd, Lori, last name Ladd, Ladd. I definitely recommend you checking her out. A couple of my woo-woo friends recommended her to me. And so I added her a couple days or maybe a week or so ago, and just, I don't know, I get busy, so I don't always look at things. I kind of skim through, like I'm sure a lot of us do, and whatever grabs our attention is what's supposed to grab our attention. And so today I was just going through, and she had a video, and I was like, all right, fine, I'll just fucking click on this one. And I clicked on it, and it happened to be the video that I needed to watch. And I think today is September 20th. So I would highly recommend going on Instagram and looking at her 5-minute video that she put up on September 20th, especially if you resonate with what I am about to talk to you about. So I'd been feeling really down, really heavy in sadness, and I've been dealing with something for the last 2 months that I'm going to share about today. And so I just was kind of talking down to myself, being like, what's wrong with you? Why are you depressed? Things are going really well in your life. You have a lot to be thankful for. So why are you so depressed? Just beating myself up for waking up in a funk. Now, mind you, it could also somewhat to do with cycles, right? I haven't really checked where I'm at in my cycle fully, but I could be entering into the PMS phase. But no, even as a therapist, I still struggle with how I talk to myself. And so I was really down on myself and feeling like, my God, am I ever going to get my shit together? Am I ever going to be a good wife to my husband? And so I happened upon her video, and this just happens to be the first one that I click on of hers ever. And it explained to a T what I was going through. And I'm going to do the best that I can to recap it, but memory's not really good lately. I don't know, maybe COVID memory, that's what I've got. Maybe it's spiritual awakening memory. I don't know, do you guys ever experience that? As you get deeper into your spiritual awakening, do you find that your memory sucks worse and worse, or are you getting more clear? Because I'm getting foggier as we go. So anyway, she describes that we are currently in a portal, which I believe started yesterday, the 19th, which was Saturday, and is going to go for the next 3 or 4 days on top of now. And it's this very heavy depression, trauma, feelings of trauma, and experiences with the trauma may reemerge intensely. But this very heavy energy is being experienced right now. And she said the purpose of this heavy energy is to release it from our bodies. That we need to go in and feel it, which I'm 100% on board. That's like my motto in therapy is you have to go in, you have to feel it before you can rise up and sort of get to the spiritual space from situations. So she's like, you have to feel it, even if it's just for 5 minutes, because that's all you can take, but you have to feel it, you have to accept it, you have to be willing to feel it and be with it. And this is a way to sort of clear this out so that we can become lighter. We can be remembered that we are of light. This will help us to tap into our spiritual team deeper. Your spiritual abilities will be enhanced when you can do this. And I do believe that. I do believe that Jessa Reed from Soberish also has been speaking on this the last month or so. She said something to the effect of, many of us used to feel guilty about sort of falling back asleep in the matrix, to sort of forget about our spiritual being and to get caught up into the drama of reality, of this reality, of Earth, of being a human, doing our 9 to 5, being part of chaos and drama and feeling tough feelings and getting into fights and doing all those things and then being like, oh shit, I fell asleep. Waking back up and going back up into fifth dimension where, we share each other's gifts. We have unconditional love for one another. Things are very easy to communicate in the 5D. You don't always have to use words to communicate in the 5D, and you're in this beautiful bubble and you're like, love and light, spirituality, bliss. I'm vibing so high. I'm flowing with my spiritualness. Maybe you're having lots of synchronicities or what some folks call coincidences. Maybe that's happening. Then all of a sudden you come crashing down, right? You don't realize it necessarily, but you just find yourself in the grind of the bullshit of life again. Maybe you're stressed about finances, relationships, you're sad, you're depressed again, and you've fallen back asleep. Well, the last month, Jessa has been describing this as being kind of like a cross stitch, where you've got to go in and out. You got to go up and then down to sort of weave in. You've got to take the trauma of the 3D, go into it, come back up with that needle into the 5D, experience that for a little bit, and then come back down into the 3D to, get triggered, to learn your lessons. You don't learn your lessons when it's all love and light. You learn your lessons when you're fucked up and you feel like shit because you're like, I can't stand this anymore. I must do something. And then you do something and you level up and you go back to 5D for a little bit and you take a break and you have a respite and you remember how beautiful things can be in both spaces of being on the earth but not of the earth. And then you got to come crashing right back down because you got to learn the lesson again. And I like how both of these women have sort of described this. So Lori Ladd described what's currently going on right now, and Jessa Reed has described the importance of both of these experiences, of the traumatic experiences of 3D and the beautiful experiences of the 5D. And so I will now get into what I've been experiencing for the past 2 months. And I asked my husband today, I was like, okay, I feel the call to talk about this, which makes sense because Lori said, go into it, feel it, be with it. Don't be afraid of it. And so that's what I think I'm doing by speaking out about it right now to other people. I'm hoping that it will bring some comfort. I hope it doesn't scare people that are on their spiritual journey, that it's not all rainbows and sunshine the entire time. You do come crashing down and have a really hard time and struggle still. So anyway, I asked him, This is what I need to talk about today on the podcast. Are you okay with me talking about our relationship? And he was like, absolutely, go ahead. And so if you haven't listened to episode 7, I think it's entitled Spirituality is Not All Love and Light, I would probably pause this episode and go back to number 7 so that you understand the context as to what I'm about to talk about. So there are trigger warnings in episode 7. I don't think I need trigger warnings for this episode because I'm not going to be talking about the specifics. But, sometimes I start talking and I don't really know where it's going to lead. So if this is triggering in any sense, I will definitely put a description in this episode. But go back to number 7. Once you've listened to that, you can skip around. Like, obviously, you can read the titles and see that there's different topics for each week. But I'm going to describe what I've been going through for the last 2 months. So 2 months ago, I got to marry my best friend, my soulmate, my manifestation. It took like 8 years and we got married. We got married through COVID and we had a COVID wedding, and we'll have like the official ceremony, like the fun, I already got my dress, so this is fucking happening kind of thing next year. But this year we were like, you know what, we've waited long enough. Let's just go ahead and get married. So mind you, we've been together for 8 years. We've been through awesome times and we've been through some really rough times, both in our relationship together. We've been through stuff together. And then in our environment, we have been supporting each other with some pretty major stuff our entire relationship of 8 years. So no surprises here, right? None. There's nothing about our relationship that we hadn't experienced. There's not like we were moving in together for the first time, or, we had stayed, what is it, where you don't have sex? Is it celibate? Celibate? I don't know. Are you celibate inside of a relationship? Fuck, I don't know. Anyway, everything, it was like we're already married, right? For a long time, it's like we've already been married. So here I am thinking, okay, well, it's just a fucking piece of paper. Like, I literally went into the wedding because it was a COVID wedding and it was a Zoom wedding and we made it fun and it wasn't really anything super serious. I was seriously going into it like, look, as long as my immediate family and his immediate family are there, then whatever, right? The rest of it doesn't matter. Next year's the important one, not this date, right? So that's how casual I was coming into this. And I swear to God, day of, I was so happy. It ended up being a really fun, beautiful ceremony. It was loving. It was great. But something hit me. And I think maybe even a few weeks prior to. I didn't know what it was. I just was like, yeah, I've got a lot going on right now. I'm fucking working my ass off a lot. I'm about to get married. We weren't even sure we could get a marriage license because everything was shut down for COVID and all these like stressors that I thought, okay, well, that's what's going on. But then we get married and I'm still like feeling like, oh, fuck, something's up. And I realize not much after we actually just, do the ceremony. We don't even have a marriage license yet, folks. That's how new this thing is. We don't even have a marriage license yet. And I'm like, oh, fuck. I know why I'm freaking out. Because last time I got married, it's only my second one. But that's when the sexual abuse started. Not like day of, but it was like, it didn't happen before we got married. And so even though my husband is nothing like my ex, like polar opposites on so many levels, it didn't matter because that trauma was coming back up. And my God, was it coming back up because my whole system was shut the fuck down. I haven't really felt sexual in these last 2 months since we got married, and, maybe a week or two leading up. Unconsciously, this was not conscious. I wasn't thinking, oh God, I'm about to get married. This is causing me some anxiety and worry that oh God, he's going to change and become somebody different. No, none of this was conscious. And I'm a therapist. And as I've said in previous episodes, I've been doing this a while. This is not my first rodeo when it comes to therapy. I'm very insightful. I am overly analytical. Maybe that's why within a few days I could go, oh shit, I think I know what this is. But fuck, man. Even though I'm a trained therapist, it still is fucking me over. So yeah, I realized fuck, I'm associating the two. And I know that it's not the same in my logical mind, but as you all know, I'm sure, you can have logic and reason and go, okay, I know that this doesn't make sense, that this is the feeling that's coming up, or this is the thought pattern that's coming through, but you can't seem to shake it. And thank God for my friends, my little woo-woo female clan, because I eventually reached out to some of them, if not all of them. I can't remember if we had a little group, and I can't remember if I said it in the group or if I just said it to a few really close people. But I told a couple of people at least, and one person is currently married. She too has experienced some sexual trauma in her life, and she said the exact same thing happened to her as soon as she got married. I had another person in the group who also got married around the same time I did, and same thing. She was completely sexually shut down. The guilt over being a wife, the same guilt that I feel right now, even 2 months into this, I still right off the bat, I felt the guilt, and it has yet to cease in 2 months. The guilt of wow, here I am marrying this man, and at no fault of his, my biology has shut down and said, this isn't safe. I don't get aroused, not even alone, right? There's hot men on TV, and I'm yeah, okay, what? Nothing. So it's not him. It's not him. It is me. I am not aroused. I want nothing to do with it. I want to be left alone. And then the guilt and shame come up. How can you reject your husband? This is one of the most important things about a marriage, is that you provide your body. Oh my God. So many rabbit holes to go down. So anyway, I was very fortunate that several women said to me the same thing. Several women that I'm close to right now have either been married or are currently married, and almost all of them, as soon as the wedding, the ink is dry and the marriage license, whatever, all of it, it's ceremony's done, and it's okay, now I'm shut down. Sorry, factory over. All of it done. And so it kind of made me feel better. Not that here we are, a whole bunch of women that are so traumatized by sexual experiences in our life, whether it was engaging in sex that we didn't want to, but we felt pressured to, engaging in sex that we said yes instead of no, and the guy never pressured us. We just thought, well, this is what you're supposed to do as a woman. Sex that was coerced, sex that was retrieved through alcohol and drug intoxication, and so you really couldn't make good, you couldn't actually give consent in good faith, all the way to being forced into sex. Yeah, I hate all these things, right? And almost all of us, well, all of us currently, none of our partners were the perpetrators, but they were the ones that were sort of being victimized by our complete shutdown of our system. And, many of us, either it was previous relationships, or it was a rape, or it was coercion, or it was family members, or what have you. And it's just like, wow, how many other women out there who are currently married or have trauma in their life, sexual trauma, that will be married, and nobody ever told them that it's normal for your shit to completely shut down. I don't want to masturbate. I don't want to look at hot men. I don't want to be touched. I don't want to be pleasured. I don't want orgasms. I want like a chastity belt and a rubber suit, and not the hot kind where you start like, whipping people and like doing the dominatrix thing. No, not that kind of rubber suit, ladies. One day we'll get there. No, I want to feel safe in my body, and I want to feel safe, period. I just want to fucking feel safe. And I don't. And it's not my husband's fault. And so there's this long-term issue with women in our history, right? So this is not just speaking about women in the 21st century as to what we're dealing with now, with where we're beginning to realize like, hey, we may have said yes to sex when we actually meant no, and we didn't really realize what we were doing at the time. And some of the men didn't realize that we didn't want to say yes, right? No, I'm not talking about that. I'm actually referring more to the hundreds of years that women have been put in a position where sex was part of a contract in marriage. Sex was your way to keep the relationship secure because you didn't want your husband to step out on you, right? And possibly disrupt your stability. And it feels so shitty as a feminist in the 21st century to be talking about how women needed men to be safe and survive. But that is the fucking truth, because for so long, women were expected to stay home. Women were not allowed to have jobs, even if they wanted them. And even if a woman didn't want a job and they just wanted to raise their children, there was no safety in a woman being able to do that in our society without being married to a man. And this also includes many lesbians who had to sort of leave their lover or their partner, or not even be able to engage in joyful sex, because to stay safe, to have a home, to be provided with food, to have a family, all those things had to happen because they had to be married to a man. And then that meant that either the man was expected that their wives would put out. Many times, far too many times, men would take sex by force if the woman didn't want it. Many times women were virgins and they were having sex for the first time. And if their husbands weren't aware or weren't sensitive, they could cause them so much pain. Like, there's actually a medical condition that makes sex painful. And this wasn't talked about until recently, that that's actually a medical condition. It's not, willful wife or whatever you want to call it. It's actually a medical condition. And, I'm not to say that men are the problem. It's society is the problem, because we raised our men, we raised our boys to look at women this way and to look at women as property. And it is just until recently that women are no longer seen as property, because we actually can be fully independent and not need somebody else to take care of us. And hallelujah for that, right? That women are finally independent. We are with partners more now because we want to be, not because we have to be or need to be. We just want to be. And that's a beautiful partnership. That's what my husband and I have, is like, we both could be independent without each other, but my God, our life is so much better because we are together. And yeah, it makes finances nicer to have a pooled income by far. I mean, we both are benefiting from that by having, dual income here. And, it's like, I'm not saying that men are the problem. Society has been the problem. Men haven't been taught that sex can be painful for women, that there are ways to make sex pleasurable for a woman. And thank God I've got a husband who very much wants to make sure that I am good to go. He actually cares about that. And I don't know how he got that, because if you ask him, I think he would say he was never taught this stuff. Or maybe it was a friend or a friend's mom that taught him these things. And it was just one random person that taught him how to really be a good partner to a woman, especially when it comes to sex, right? Like, he's all about that. So yeah, if men are not taught about these things, if men are socialized to not care about what a woman thinks or what a woman is going through or what a woman is experiencing, if a man is taught like, oh, we're just emotional, we're dramatic, we exaggerate, whatever, then why would they not believe that when a woman is like, hey, not horny, I don't want this, and it has nothing to do with you, right? Like, any of that. It's just so heavy. It's so heavy what women have been dealing with for so long. And whether you believe in past lives and that, we carry trauma from multiple lives, or if you believe in the woo-woo concept that we can carry the pain from multiple generations that aren't even linked to us biologically. It's just like, hey, you're a woman, you carry this, right? If you don't want to believe in that, which I do, I truly believe that as a woman, even if I was a man in all my other past lives, I chose to be a woman in this lifetime, and that meant that I got an imprint of what that feels like to be a woman for hundreds of years, if not longer, because I needed that to be able to have my current experience fully. And so, I'm sorry if I'm a little all over the place, but it's a very difficult topic, and I want to cover so much, and not just about me, because I tell you what, every time I'm like, I think I'm going to do a topic about myself, I feel so fucking narcissistic. Like, do you really want to hear about my fucking stories, or do you listen every week or whenever you do because you want to be educated about something that's related to mental health and spirituality? I don't know. I just feel like I don't want to do this just as a talking piece where, like, I can think on my deathbed, wow, there's a piece of me out there for others to know, and even though I don't have my own biological children, like, my legacy will continue, right? Like, fuck that. Like, I'm not gonna lie, there's a little piece of me that is doing this for that, but I also genuinely want other people to feel not alone. So sometimes when I talk about my experiences, not only is it tough to just talk about and get my words out there, but I want to keep a balance of me just not narcissistically spewing my story so that you all are, forced to listen to this shit. But yeah, it's tough. It's tough to talk about these things, and I just want to do it justice because it's a heavy and very huge topic that women for hundreds of years, if not longer, have been dealing with. And really, my knowledge comes mostly from the white female American perspective since colonization. So I understand that for indigenous people, for African people, for Asian people, for Middle Eastern people, for Latino cultures, all of that my personal accounting may be so different than them, but I don't know. And maybe my lens is skewed because I feel like I'm saying like, no, I think fucking women have been put down to made lesser than, these little microaggressive comments that, oh, I'm just joking, whatever, just don't take things so serious because, you're too serious all the time. And it's like, well, fuck, man, maybe we're carrying a lot of serious shit because for hundreds of years, if not longer, we've been told consistently that if we have emotions, we're hysterical. And women have been hospitalized for having emotions. Legit, we were taught, thank God, in psychology and sociology about how many women who were just being women were hospitalized because men couldn't handle our emotions. How the fuck did I get so off topic? Fuck. I'm so sorry. All right, I'm bringing it back, folks. I'm so sorry. So, as stated in episode number 7, Spirituality is Not All Love and Light, I had a lot of problems prior to getting married to my ex-husband, but the sexual abuse actually happened after we got married. And I was told after the fact, when I would tell him that hurt, I don't want to do that, this makes me uncomfortable, this reminds me of when I was raped in college, all of that stuff. You know what I was told? This is what you're supposed to do as a wife, right? You're supposed to want to do these things for your husband. And I'm like, but, right? So the guilt and shame that I'm letting somebody down, and as a people pleaser, as an anxiously attached person, I don't want to do that to somebody that I love, that I care about, that is important to me. And I'm being told I'm hurting him by not wanting to do the things he was doing to me without my consent. And repeatedly, even after I told him, I don't like that. That hurts me. I don't want you to keep doing this. Please stop. No, it was guilt trip after guilt trip. And I believed it. Part of me didn't. Part of me didn't. I never said it was okay. I never once said it was okay. I never once said it was okay. Everything I did say was no. Stop. And the hard part was I was silent while he was doing it. But when I felt safe afterwards, because I always go into the freeze mode of the fight, flight, freeze trauma response. So I'd be frozen there as he was doing what he was doing to me when I was either half asleep or half passed out from drinking. And then I would freeze, and I wouldn't say anything while he was doing it. And this would go on for 45 minutes to an hour, so I guess I do need a trigger warning. But I always spoke up afterwards. I always said to him the following day or the following days, because it would gnaw at me like, I don't want this. I don't want this. This hurts. This hurts emotionally. It hurts physically. I don't want to be taken. I don't want my body to be used. I'm not something to be used for just his pleasure. Shouldn't it be our pleasure? And so when I told him and talked to him, it was always guilt trip after guilt trip. And it was never, oh God, I'm so sorry. It was, well, no, I'm trying to ease you into it so that you become more comfortable. And I'm like, I don't want to fucking do this. Don't do this to me. And it didn't stop until he grabbed me. The 2 times in the last moments of our relationship where he used his stature, he used his strength. He's 6'2", I believe. I'm 5'1". He was athletic. I was not. And even though he never hit me, he never punched me, he never threw me down a flight of stairs, he would grab me, he would pin me against a wall, he would try to grab the couch and throw me off the couch. He used his body to intimidate me and scare me, and it worked. And I guess because all of that happened very quickly after the marriage, because I guess he assumed, oh, well, once we're married, you do what I say, right? Because it was no longer I was allowed to spend time with friends. No. Nope. Even if there was nothing going on sexually, it was, why are you doing that? You shouldn't be doing that. Why are you spending time with these people? All these things. And then if we wanted to do things as a group, it was always his way or the highway, or else he'd throw a little hissy fit, right? And just make it uncomfortable. And as a people pleaser, I would rather not fight and put my needs and wants and desires to the side than to continue to stand up for myself against somebody who is just going to dig their heels in and cry and whine and mope and be uncomfortable to be around. So I took the discomfort in hopes to have more comfort. And there's shame in that. For me. Doesn't need to be for every woman, but there was shame in that for me because I was ignoring myself. I was putting myself to the side. And to be honest, with people that act like that, you will never be able to stand up to them. The only way to really stand up to somebody like that is to stand up and walk away. And I did. And then I got stalked. And that was fucking frightening. So it's like marriage was frightening. Fuck, man. I have this association now that's marriage is scary. And I saw my parents, and that was scary. And so I have this like unconscious, marriage is scary. Marriage is scary. Fuck. That is the connection that was formed because of that relationship. Marriage is scary. Marriage means I'm going to be taken advantage of. Marriage means that my body is going to be used for somebody else's pleasure and not mine and not ours. I don't want to take advantage of anyone, especially my husband. I don't want to take advantage of him. But I don't want to be taken advantage of. I don't want to be used. I don't want to be abused. I don't want my voice to be squashed just because I'm a woman and now I'm married and I'm not allowed to have a voice. I want to be equals. Truly equals. I don't want to be greater than. I just want to be fucking equals. That's what I wanted with my ex-husband, and that's what I want with my husband now. And thank God I have that. He genuinely wants us to be equals. He genuinely loves to see me thrive. Like to see the joy and excitement in his face when good things happen to me. When he's like, go spend time with friends. Like, I'm not going to bother you. I'll leave you alone and go have fun. And I'm not worried that you're going to do something. And like just the opposite. Oh, thank fucking God for that. So I think, like on a spiritual level, right, that this is coming up now because I am actually with a safe partner. And because I have somebody safe, I can actually experience what I've been going through for the last 2 months of complete shutdown. And I have somebody who wants to do the work with me, right? Somebody who listens to my podcasts and gets to understand me more and more and love me more and more and support me more and more. And so I'm safe now. I am actually physically and emotionally safe. And I think because I know that this happened so that I could feel this intensity and actually be able to work it out. So I'm going to take a quick pause and I'm going to come back and finish the story and hopefully shed some positivity at the last half of this episode. That's the hope, right? That there's silver lining to everything. So I'll take a pause now and be back shortly. Have you heard about Anchor? It's the easiest way to make a podcast, and it's the way I'm making my podcast right now. and it's free. They have creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. And Anchor is going to distribute your podcast to all the major important places you would ever want, like Spotify and Apple and so many more places. And you can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything that you need to make a podcast all in one place. I love it. It's so simple. So download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. All right, I am back. All right, so yes, I believe that genuinely because my partner is secure, is loving and kind and truly loves me and wants the best for me, that is why it has felt time, I guess, for this to come up, right? Thank God that I have a good guy who truly loves me so that I can try to work this out and work past it. So I reached out to a whole bunch of my friends, my female friends. And like I said, many of them, especially those that have been married or are married, were like, yep, same thing fucking happened to me. And we all kind of talked about it, helped me to feel less like a bad person or a bad wife. It made me sad to realize like how many women out there are just like us that have had a traumatic experience sexually that are now, it's all coming back up with our safe partners to sort of process. And also what an honor that which I truly believe that we, especially as spiritual light workers, part of our mission is to process some of these really tough, like deep generational wounds because we're in safe spaces to do so. And so we have to feel it, not only for ourselves, but for all the other women, so that we can collectively heal as women. Heal from this sexual trauma that we have experienced and endured for so fucking long. So, talking to them has helped me so much to deal with this, not feel alone, not feel horrible. And I'm actually going to have one of my friends on my next episode. She is an amazing woman, an amazing podcaster, Courtney from the Intuitive Mom Interrupted. She hasn't officially yet, as of this recording right now that I'm aware of, offered this service that I'm going to try to coax her into doing when I talk to her for this next episode. But she helped me so much, not only to like validate it, but to say, okay, now I have some solutions for you. I have some ways to manage this. So I'm going to have her on the podcast. She's going to be my very first interview. And she's awesome. And I think you're going to love her if you don't already know her. But I want her on the podcast so that she and I can sort of talk a little bit about how she helped me to begin to take this from victim mode into fun exploration and this new chapter for my husband and I. So I'm really excited that you guys will get to hear from her. I'm really hoping that she understands how truly gifted she is with what she does and will offer this to other women, because I have a feeling that there are far too many of us that are dealing with this. And for any men out there that are partnered up, especially if you're partnered up with a female, that I encourage you to really think about what your female partner may be going through or have gone through. We don't normally tell our partners a lot about sexual trauma. There's a lot of shame and guilt. We believe that we're at fault more times than not for what we've been through. Like, well, if you don't fight them off with a stick or a weapon, then you wanted it, right? Is kind of how we're fed. And so all the gray area that is reality in a woman's life, we feel guilty about. So I think that it would be helpful for you to know if your partner is shutting down sexually or has a sexual trauma in their lifetime. It would be helpful for you to know too, like, hey, I have some knowledge. I have some tips and tools that we can talk about with Courtney on how to get the healing going. And, if that doesn't work, and not only if it doesn't work, but you should also just refer your partner, or you both go to Courtney when she offers these services. Do you like how manipulative I'm being right now to Courtney? Poor thing. God, that's kind of shitty on me now that I'm thinking about it. Because if she really doesn't want to provide these services, I've kind of just called her out on it. Fuck. Okay, sitting in that reality for a moment. I'm sorry, Courtney. It really put a new perspective, because here I am suffering for 2 months. And so what happened? Okay, let me take it back a minute. So we get married, my husband and I. Shortly thereafter, I realized, sexually, I'm shutting down. He begins to notice that I'm shutting down. We haven't had sex in a while, and he's like, hello? And I'm like, no. And now he's beginning to feel rejected, right? Because when he touches me, I move away, I stiffen up. I don't pursue him, which men want to be pursued too, ladies. They want to feel like they're important and that they are found sexy. And so, men are very much like us in that sense, that they too need to feel pursued and loved and important sexually. This is how men often find attachment and connectivity and intimacy, is through sex. And so when, as a female, we shut that off, they truly feel disconnected from us. Now, that doesn't mean that they get to have sex with us when we don't want it, but it's just a thing to understand that is a disconnect of intimacy for a man. And so he felt very rejected. And we were open, we talked about it for weeks, and I felt guilty and horrible that I'm hurting him. And I want to have sex with him. It's not that I don't find him attractive, because trust me, if y'all have seen him, he is fucking hot. He's got a great body. He has a beautiful face, and his personality and smile and laughter will just light up a room. But I've been carrying this darkness. I've been carrying this weight and this burden now for quite some time. And it's like a form of depression, really, that I can't quite seem to shake. And I'll have some good days. I'll have things are going really well in my life right now. And so I can have some really good days, really cool, connected days, like spiritually connected. I can have great sessions with clients, even though that's been feeling off. Everything's been off. Fuck, man, for 2 months, things have been off, and this is supposed to be the best time of my life. I'm a newlywed. And it's not. It's the most triggering in a long time. I'm the most triggered I've been in a long time. And it's not because of my current reality. And man, is that a mind fuck. So here it is. My husband is being patient, being kind, being understanding. He's talking to me. He's listening to me. And one day, as couples do, he comes up and, he also, meanwhile, right, I do my number 7 podcast. So he hears what I've actually been through now, fully hears it. He's heard it before, but it's different, I think, when you talk, because there's back and forth conversation. It's another thing when you have to actually hear your wife uninterrupted telling some details about the trauma she has experienced in her life. And no, it wasn't all about the sexual trauma. It was a lot of the other things that kind of happened throughout my childhood and adulthood as well. But he had to hear it unfiltered. Aside from hitting the pause button or stopping it, he had to hear it. And so now this is fucking with his head, because now he's like, fuck, she really went through some fucked up shit. I never want to do that to her. I never want her to feel that way with me. So now he's questioning every way he touches me. Is this okay? Am I allowed to do this? Is this all right? Does this make you feel comfortable? Does this make you feel uncomfortable, right? So now he's like on eggshells, like, fuck, am I going to trigger her? Am I going to do to her what he did to her? I don't want to hurt her. And just randomly he comes up to me one day, and he just comes up from behind and he touches me. And even though he asked for permission, he asked for fucking permission. Is this okay if I touch you here? And I go, yes, right? Because oftentimes as women, our answer is always yes. Don't even think about it. The answer is just yes. If they want something, you give it. No questions asked. And so I just said, yeah, you can touch me there. That's fine. However, my body told him exactly what I actually felt, which was I stiffened up, I froze, and he pulled away because he could feel that my body had completely changed. I wasn't leaning into him. I wasn't enjoying it. And now here I am rejecting him. I'm rejecting his touch, which he asked me, and I gave him permission, and now I'm rejecting him. And how do you not? Because I have definitely in my previous relationships, if I've ever, even if a guy has a day off and he doesn't want sex with me, I'm like, what's wrong with me? Am I not pretty enough? Am I fat? Am I ugly? Do I smell funny? Right? Like I go through the laundry list of all the reasons why it's my fault. Again, anxiously attached. And so now he is too. Now I've made a very secure man insecure, thinking that something's actually wrong with him when it's not. It has nothing to do with him. And no matter how many times I tell him, this isn't about you. This is me and my experience, and I'm so sorry that you're having to suffer through this. It doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, his touch equals my stiffness, my rejection. And that will weigh on a person very quickly. And so it finally took one day recently where he says to me, I knew something was wrong. It was the day that this touch happened, and I said yes, and then he feels guilty because he feels like now he has hurt me in some way, that he has harmed me, because that's my body's response. And he's also feeling like, well, she just isn't that into me anymore. And so he's a little silent for the rest of the day, and I ask him, like, hey, is everything okay? What's wrong? Did I do something? Blah, blah, blah. And he's like, no, everything's fine. And then I realized, okay, probably it's not. But instead of me pestering him for hours on end, let me just say, okay. Because I know, after 8 years together, that no matter what, if something really is bothering him, we're at a point now where he will tell me. And it took years to get there, but we are definitely at a point now where it's very safe. We talk to each other about everything. And so he did. Later on that night, he said to me, yeah, I do need to talk to you about something, and I need you to just hear me. And he pretty much just said, after pretty much describing what I had just said to you, he said, I need to just see us as friends right now. And that broke my fucking heart. Because to protect himself, he needed to have a good boundary with me. And the boundary was, I cannot see you as my partner. I'm not going to leave you. I'm happy with you. But when it comes to sex, I understand that we may never have it again. And I still love you and I still want to be with you, but I have to just see you as my friend. Fuck, man. I knew I was hurting him. Not consciously, not purposefully, but I knew it was hurting him. But when the words are spoken out loud by your partner to confirm that, yeah, it is hurting, and it's hurting to the point where I can't even see you as my partner now, that's when I was like, fuck. And so I reached back out to my friends and told them. And one of my friends said, you got to talk to Courtney. Courtney's helped me through something very similar. She's awesome at this stuff when it comes to sex and, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, all right, cool. So I reached out to Courtney, and luckily Courtney was like, yeah, girl, let's get on the phone today. And I was like, oh, thank God. And I'm not going to give you any secrets yet because I want that to be part of our conversation for the next one as to how she helped me. But she listened to me, she validated me, and then she gave me real world advice on how to get my husband and I back on the same page. And what was amazing is that, it gave me hope. It gave me hope because she was like, this isn't permanent. This is temporary. You're working through your trauma. Thank God you've got a great partner who's safe that you can work this through together. He loves you. He wants to be with you. He's not leaving you. He's not going to go be with another person, because let me tell you, that's a fear of women, right? If we say no, that our partners are going to go off and cheat on us because they have to get their needs met. And I get it, but fuck, man. In sickness and in health, and I'm so fucking sorry that it's my sickness right now. It's the beginning of a marriage. You want to be health first. Fuck, not. Okay, so we said our I-dos. By the way, did you know that I'm about to shut down in 3, 2, 1, right? So remember how we said in sickness and in health? Well, now it's a sickness, bitch. Sucker. No, I didn't want this. I wanted happiness. I wanted lots of great sex. I wanted more sex and fucking and lovemaking and everything in between. But no, fucking my body said, nope, sorry, girl. You got another layer to get through. It's a doozy, but it's going to be worth it. So she gave me hope. She gave me things to actively do with my husband. And it was a tough conversation at first, in that I'm going to him knowing that he feels completely rejected. I'm not really sure if he really does want to be with me anymore, or if he's just saying that because he's a partner for life kind of guy. I don't want him to suffer. I don't want him to hurt. So I broach the topic. I say, hey, I just got off a really cool call with Courtney. She's got me feeling like there's hope. I have things we can do. I think it's going to be helpful. I'm really looking at this as hey, we're going to have our relationship actually better because of this fucked up situation, right? Are you excited too, right? Because, how am I going to sell this to him when I'm giving the 2-minute version of an hour-long conversation with Courtney? And, and it's is he even going to want to? Or is he just done? Is it, we're friends now and that's it? I don't know. So I tell him, and he's like, okay, yeah, let's try it. And we kept talking about it. In fact, for fucking 36 to 48 hours, we couldn't stop talking about sex and intimacy and our relationship, which was cool, right? Because now it wasn't hey, sorry for shutting down, sorry for not wanting things, sorry for, victimizing you, sorry for being a victim. It was okay, well, this sounds fun. Maybe that. Let's do this. What do you think about that? It was it was really a game changer. We really had a different perspective. And so we have been doing the things that she suggested, and it has been helpful. And just like with everything, there are some really good days, some fun days. We're trying some new stuff. We're actually, emotionally, we're closer now than we've ever been in our 8 years combined. I love him now more than I've ever loved him in our 8 years together. But, it's not my best friend only. It's my best friend and husband. So that means I want to bang. He wants to bang. I don't like not having a full experience with sex and intimacy and love. But, so this has definitely perked us up a bit. It has got us excited. But like with everything, there's its ups and its downs. And so we had a few days of ups, then I might have a day or two of down, and then I'm back up. And it was like the last, I guess, like I said, 24 hours or so. It was definitely since sometime yesterday where I felt this heaviness come back over. And I'm like, fuck, did I not come out of this? Like, come on, we were doing good. We're turning a new leaf. We're creating this whole new sexual adventure for us, this whole new deeper level of intimacy now because of this situation. And then I just got heavy and deep again. And thank God for Lori Ladd's synchronistic, video today to help me understand that actually we're in currently 3 to 5 day portal where all of this trauma is coming back up. Like I did, I went back out into my little magical woods near the home yesterday on my jog, and I did a couple of meditations in the woods to help sort of start to deal with some of this trauma from the sexual stuff. And then, we had playtime yesterday, and then I wake up this morning and I'm like, whew, it's fucking heavy. I'm not shaking it off, and like things are not getting better. Like just like the woe is me, the end of the world, and like nothing worked kind of like mentality. But when you're depressed and you're deep in it, you feel like nothing's worked. You feel like nothing will work. You feel like it's all like for nothing. And that's just part of the game, and that's fine. That's where you have to be to sort of go into the feeling, to really truly feel it, to experience it, to sit with it, to do something with this energy to move it forward so that you're not stuck in it. And so that video to help me understand that this is actually a collective thing and not just a Lindsay thing, but this is a collective thing and a Lindsay thing is like, oh, okay, cool. Then I'm definitely going with my instincts from this morning, which is do a podcast about what you're experiencing right now. That's going to be more important than anything else you could do in this moment. And then an hour later I saw that video and I was like, synchronistic. Yep, that confirmed it 100%. This is what I'm talking about, because if I'm feeling it, I know that it's more than 1 in 4 women that have had sexual trauma. I know it because we don't talk about it. At least we didn't prior to the Me Too movement, and I really don't know how much we still are talking about it anymore. So I'm going to take a venture and say 3 out of 4 women have had some sort of sexual, some sort of variance on the spectrum of trauma. Whether it was, I said yes when I meant no, but nobody coerced me into that. It was just like a social pressure, all the way to I was forcibly raped. Somewhere, I think, at least 3/4 of women have experienced that. I could be wrong. Again, research doesn't support that because women don't talk. We don't report it. So anyway, I felt that it was important to talk about this so that if there are other women out there that are experiencing this heaviness since Saturday, that you kind of know why. And if you have trauma, go look at her video. It helps to describe it much better. It's only 5 minutes, so it's not a huge, chunk of your time. And we're going through something right now, and we are helping to move past the trauma, but we have to go through it to get out of it. And I'm not to say that after my podcast today, I'm going to be healed, nor am I saying that when my husband and I continue to tackle this issue and we feel like we've on the other side of this issue, that's it. I won't have to deal with trauma again, because I just don't think that that's how we work. I feel like it really is an onion, and each layer you peel off, and each layer it gets a little bit easier, and it gets a little bit to getting your life feeling a lot better. But, you're not alone in this. And if you are a partner with somebody that's dealing with this, whether you're a woman or a male that are dealing with a partner dealing with something like this, just know that, like, more likely than not, it's not about you, but have the conversation to make sure, right? Because we all do things that hurt each other unconsciously and inadvertently. Talk. That is our biggest thing that has not only saved my relationship with my husband all these years, it has made it the best thing that I've ever experienced in my life, is because we actively communicate. That is number one. Actually, number one is first, know thyself, right? Because how are you going to communicate with somebody if you don't fucking know your shit? So if you're not to the point of knowing yourself, figure that part out first. Journal, meditate, take walks in the woods where you can have some reflective moments. The woods, nature in and of itself, very healing, very supportive. It's like a very nurturing experience where you always sort of come out of there feeling a little bit better, feeling a little bit more whole. Talk to friends, see if other people are experiencing what you're going through, so you can sort of talk it out before you go to your partner if you haven't really formulated your thoughts yet and it's a sensitive topic. You know, learn how to effectively communicate with your partner, because that is a huge piece of it. You can't necessarily talk at them. You need to listen. You need to understand. You need to be honest. You need to be honest with yourself. You need to know how to say things, because you can say things that can be hurtful and you can say things that can be helpful. But don't avoid this tough stuff, because it really can feel like an honor if you reframe what you're going through as, okay, I'm doing this for me 100%, but there's also a piece of me that's doing this for so many women, either before me, after me, or currently. And because I'm sitting in this deep heaviness, I am helping to heal my timeline, and I'm helping to heal other people's timelines, and that is beautiful. That is an honor. Fucking painful one, but it's an honor. And so don't be afraid of your feelings. They're here for a reason. They're here to teach us something. They're our friends even when they feel like our foe. Lean on others. Seek out help if you need it. You know, thank God I have a community of women that all have a different sort of specialty, and that we can support each other in our healing. We can be each other's cheerleaders to say, you got this, girl. You can do this. I've done it, or I know people who have done it, or we can do this together, or I've got your back. Like, oh, the other day I did, because I've been holding so much grief, and not just about this trauma, but about so much other stuff, you know? And so I decided to do like a grief ritual, a grief spiritual ceremony, whatever. Fuck my words. Anyway, a few days ago, I did a grief ceremony, I guess you could say, where I lit a candle, I grabbed my crystals, I held my puppy. She's not a puppy, but I call my dogs puppies, but they're not. They're adults. But anyway, I held my little puppy. I cradled her like a baby, because she's only 6 pounds. And I turned on music, because I wasn't like, in the morning I was like about ready to bawl, and then I had to fucking not bawl because I had to go work, right? And you can't exactly cry with your clients, so I had to have my shit together. So then I kind of blocked it so that I could work. So then I was like, well, fuck, I'm not really feeling it, but I feel blocked. Like, I feel like there's something underneath, but it's not quite coming through. So I know what kind of gets my waterworks going. It could be a very sad movie or a sad show, and music. So I was like, well, music's the quickest one. I've got some songs I could play. So I held her. I forgot to bring snot rags, which was epic fail. And I sang to her, and I cuddled her and I played my sad songs and I went there. And sometimes it was legit memories. Sometimes it was like it would be like a TV still, like if it was like an image, right, with an emotion attached. So there wasn't really a scene. It was just like an image where I'm like, I'm not 100% sure if this is a repressed memory, if this is a past life, if this is just a metaphor for how I felt. And it didn't matter what the story was. What mattered was I sat with it and I kept the image in my head. Whatever needed to pop up, popped up. You know, I'd called in my spirit team. I said, please help me to really go there and feel this. Help me to be strong. I envisioned all of my girlfriends around me in a circle as I like curled up into a ball and in a very dark space. You know, I envisioned this in my mind's eye. And then I just said, that they were all like cheering me on and like holding the space for me and keeping me safe and letting me know that I could go and do this work in this time. And I asked my spirit team for the help. And then whatever needed to pop up to help me work through it, I went with it. And I kept playing different songs that I knew would help elicit more sadness and thoughts and feelings. And I cried. I did my ugly cry with the snot all coming out. And I'm like, fuck, I forgot. Like, shit to blow my nose with. As I'm like, right? Yeah, epic fail. I definitely recommend grabbing snot rags first before doing this work. But I did that, and I did that for a good 45 minutes to an hour, and I just wept. And I let whatever come through that needed to come through. And then I tried to envision cutting cords from the people that had come into my mind's eye that had caused some trauma. And I wasn't fully able to cut the cords. I tried to envision it. It was like a stop. It was stop, stop, stop. There was still a little string left. And I'm like, fuck, And I was like, all right, I'll do this again tomorrow morning. And then I didn't. I ended up going for a run. And I couldn't tap back into that emotion when I was out playing in the woods. But I did do some meditations to help continue. And yes, finally, the cord was severed. I don't think it's fully done yet, obviously. Still carrying the heaviness. But I'm going to keep doing that as often as I need to go into that scary, what was interesting was it wasn't just grief over what I had gone through, but it was also really going back into those fearful moments where I was leaving my husband, where he was stalking me, where he was violating my body, all the other things in my life that were scary that related to sex, everything. It was just fear, lots of fear of my safety, and sadness around circumstances that were going on. I felt very rejected earlier in that day. Some things had gone down in my personal life, not with my husband, thankfully. And so I went there. So that's another thing to do is set an intention. Go be with your spirit team. Do a ceremony or a ritual. Take a salt bath. Take a spiritual bath. Go stand out naked in the full moon when that comes back. Google shit. Talk to your friends. Figure out what your witchy or woo-woo friends do for these sort of situations and see what resonates with you. And when I say resonates, it's going to be like a little light bulb goes off. Like a aha, or ooh, that sounds fun. Even though it's hard and tough work, it might still sound exhilarating and interesting and you can't stop thinking about it. So those are the things that I would say are resonating with you. Give it a try. And no, it's going to be uncomfortable. It's not fun. But what's on the other side of that when you do the work is relief. You feel this weight lifted off your shoulders. I feel a weight lifted off my shoulders already just by talking on this podcast about this. I still know I have more work to do. But I'm putting in the work. And that is the one thing I know I can be proud of myself. That even if I feel narcissistic as fuck to be talking to you all about my experience, I do actually have faith that I go balls deep into the work. I am not afraid. I may resist it for a little bit and I may avoid it for a little bit. But when it comes to the reality, I actually will do the work. I will put the work in and go to the uncomfortable places, talk about the uncomfortable stuff, and do the work to constantly try to improve my well-being, my surroundings, my relationships, and my behavior so that I don't continue to hurt people in my life. So hopefully I gave you some rays of hope and didn't completely scare you away from spirituality, doing your inner work, any trauma or any of that stuff. That's my hope. I hope that there was a little ray of sunlight in the end of this. And I'm sure in time that I will update you about how this whole little sexual experiment with my husband has been going. No graphic details. Sorry, folks. Not going to give you those graphic details per se. Well, let's see what my conversation's like with Courtney. But, trying to keep some relationship privacy and some respect for my husband. Obviously, I try to clear things with him first before I start talking about things that relate to him. So anyway, that will be the next episode with Courtney, and I can't wait to continue on talking about how we can heal this sexual trauma and how we can do it with partners and even without partners. Who knows? So I love you all so much. As I go out on this episode, you will see, if you're like my husband and myself, we always are looking at the clock and going, okay, it's almost over. But wait, she's saying it's almost over, but yet I see still a few more minutes left. So because I was about to prepare for my very first interview, I wanted to see if the Anchor app actually does make it as easy as they say for you to do interviews on here. And so I had him test it out with me. And then it was so funny that I was like, are you cool with me using it as an outtake? So here is an outtake of my husband and I fucking around. It will give you a little taste of our personalities together. So I hope you find it fun and entertaining. I love you all so much. And just never, ever, 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 ever forget, you are worth it. You are worth this hard work. And it truly is 100% always better when you do the work. Not in the middle, but afterwards always feels better when you do the work. Because otherwise, you're just sitting in the muck anyway. You're sitting in the garbage of depression and anxiety and trauma and all the shit that is making you feel uncomfortable. So why not try something different? Try to work on it. All right, folks. Until next time, take care. God? Can you go to another room so we can actually test this out?
Hi, and today you have a special guest, Jitan Pandya, aka God, who will be joining you for God Advice.
God advice, huh? Well, God, I really appreciate you taking the time out of your very busy day to join me on this very important podcast about narcissism and how some people believe way too much in themselves. Thank you.
Yes, that is pretty bad that people think such things of themselves. But, that's why you all come to me for answers.
So, God, would you say that this connection is pretty good and that you can hear me okay?
Oh, yeah, I can hear you perfectly. So I'm talking to you on speakerphone, literally.
Okay.
It's great. How does God sound? Because I'm all the way up in heaven right now, so.
See, I would imagine you down in hell. I don't know why. It's so funny. Okay, so but it's clear, concise, everything sounds good on your end?
Totally, yep.
Oh, wow, they really did make it easy. Okay.
Yeah, wow.
Well, God, I just want to say thank you so much for joining me on this lovely adventure called life.
Yes.
How lucky it is for me to be married to God. And also have you co-host one of my episodes. So thank you so much.
Always here for you, my child.
Okay, quick question.
What's that?
How much would you hate me if I use this as an outtake funny on one of my episodes.
You've been recording?
Well, yeah, that's how I'm trying to play with this whole thing.
Really? Wow. Okay.
That's the only way to have you on here is if I'm already recording.
Oh, yeah.
Plus, I want to listen back and make sure it sounds okay.
Sounds good. God is here for you.
So you don't mind if I do this as an outtake?
No, of course not.
Well, thank you, God.
Mm-hmm.
All right, God, I love you. And I will see you, I guess, when I cross over. Hopefully, right?
Blessings, my child.
Bye.
Bye.
I just wanted to say thank you all so much for your love, support, and continuing to listen to my podcast. If you feel called, I would really appreciate you to subscribe to my podcast and rate it and write a review. When you do that, it helps to put my podcast so that more people can get access to it and know about the podcast. Feel free to share it with anyone that you think might benefit from some of these conversations that we're having. And please be sure to follow me. Primarily, I'm on Instagram at the_intuitive_psychologist_111. I know it's a mouthful. I had to set myself apart from all the other people that kind of had similar names, so I apologize for that. On my Instagram, I not only talk about a lot of the things that I talk about on the podcast, gives you some tips and advice for mental health issues. Every Wednesday, I'm doing a live meditation. The specific time will be to determined, but probably either late afternoon or early evening, Wednesdays Pacific time. And I'm also occasionally on TikTok at Intuitive Psych. You can also email me at intuitive.psych.111@gmail.com. Feel free to email me with any questions, comments, any stories that you'd like to share. And hopefully in the very near future, I will be able to start providing spiritual services because I'm going to manifest that. So if you want to get on the list so that once I get my life sorted on that and get the logistics sorted out so that I can provide spiritual services across state lines, please email me there. If you're in the state of California and you would like to have some work within the spiritual psychology realm, please email the Gmail account and let me know that you heard about me through the podcast, and I will be happy to give you a discounted rate if you mention that you heard me on the podcast. And I'd love to work with you guys. All right. Take care, and I love you all. Stay safe, and remember, you are the light.